Good morning, Boquete. Good morning, Chiriqui. You are listening to Radio Chiriqui, 103.3 FM. And this is Talking with Your Doctor with Dr. Shannon Tuer. I'm Dr. Shannon Tuer. And joining us today on the show, we have Al Stefanelli.
Well, hello.
Al.
Good morning. Long time no see. A week.
Yeah, about a week.
About
A
a
lot's
week,
happened
yeah.
in a week, actually.
Yes. I've one of the main things that I've done this week is I've learned all of the words to row your boat and
yes. Okay, see, here's what we're doing this week, or this Saturday. We decided to kind of have a recap of last show because a lot of people were letting us know that they weren't hearing the show too well. You know, they were either hearing row your boat or some religious show.
Yeah, or cleaning a cleaning crew somewhere was having a conversation. And that was only on the online version. The broadcast version
was fine on the radio. Yeah. Right, no problems with the radio one. But, you know, we thought we'd have a recap, maybe play another little rendition of row your boat.
Harmonies.
Or my favorite, you know, the wheels on the bus go round and round.
99 bottles. 99 vials of vaccine on the wall.
Yeah. Hey, it's a nice day today, although it's a little bit windy.
Yeah.
Bear with us. You're going to hear a little bit of... exactly. Something like that. Of the wind blowing here. But other than that, it's really sunny. It's a nice cool day. Probably be a warmer afternoon.
Probably.
What would you say the temperature is? I didn't even look.
If I'm going to guess, I'd say 72 Fahrenheit.
Ooh, you're specific. You're not just like...
It's just a guess.
Not a nice rounded number there.
72.3. How about that?
73 degrees.
Ooh, how you like that?
Yeah. Close. If you'd bet, hey.
I would have won. Price is Right.
As long as you say, yeah, within, whoa, what was that? Okay, sorry about that. That's the phone buzzing. It's not a bee. Okay, so, yeah, been an exciting week here in Panama.
It has been. There have been several communications that have come out from MINSA and Cineproc, and then
contradicting each other.
And then the following day there were clarifications, and then there were clarifications of clarifications.
Of the clarifications, yeah.
And just to make things more confusing, El Presidente came on TV and further tried to explain the situation with the beaches, which
very badly,
further confused things.
Out.
No, it did not work out very well.
So the last thing that we have that we think we understand at the moment.
Right. For Chiriqui.
Yeah, for Chiriqui is we're open.
We're
from
open.
6 a.m. to 4 p.m. at beaches,
these
rivers.
are the beaches and the rivers and public areas are open from 6 p.m. 6 a.m. No, 6 p.m. 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
There's no lockdown this week.
There's no lockdown on the weekends.
And we got 3 extra hours.
Yeah.
So now instead of it being from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m., it's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I do that when I write too.
It's okay. It happens. I mix them up too.
So yeah,
it's just numbers and letters.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, we've given a few extra hours, and of course, as things are. Open to change.
Yep.
Probably will change.
Probably, although there has been some steadying of the numbers.
Yes, there has been.
There's been dips and there's been spikes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of maintained steady.
Yeah. Well, we know the spike that we saw a few days ago that was 4,000 or 5,000. That was from Christmas, from New Year's.
New Year.
That
probably
was from
New
Year's.
Yeah.
So,
and now that we're open later and things are a little bit more open, they're lifting a lot of the restrictions. We're probably going to see more spikes.
Probably. You know, right now we've been hovering around 3,000, give or take a couple of hundred. It may go up a few hundred or so from there. But, you know, the death rate, though, did come down a little bit.
It did.
So it was getting scary there for a few days. 60, 50,
50, 60, 40. It has leveled out. Hopefully it maintains. Hopefully we can get some of these people out of the hospital. As you know, it's not the death rate that's the most concerning.
Right.
The most concerning thing is that about 20% of infections end up in the hospital.
Right.
And that's a big load on the system. And when you add up all the other illnesses that are going into the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, people are still getting sick. They're still getting heart attacks and whatnot, and
pneumonias that have nothing to do with COVID.
And when you figure the average stay for a coronavirus patient, it's longer than the normal average stay. And you know, from what I understand, and I don't know how it works here. I have my family owns a hospital out in California. And the way my cousins have explained it to me way back was that they allocate their resources, and not just the supplies, but the staff too. Yep. They allocate those resources based on the average stay of a hospital patient. Mm-hmm. And the way that he explained it to me is that the hospital patients for COVID are 2 to 3 times longer, which taxes their supplies and taxes their staff. Uh-huh. So it isn't like their main concern out there now in California is bad.
It's really bad. It's out of control.
Their main concern is the reason they're running out of beds and supplies is because the people are staying in the hospital longer.
Exactly. They require more resources, more staff. It's a difficult situation, and until we can start really on a massive scale apply the vaccine,
right?
Especially with these new contagious strains that are going around. Yeah. Super contagious.
Right. And from what I've read, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines are, they will combat those strains.
They will.
Because
the protein spike on the virus is like this round ball.
Right, yeah.
And then it's covered with these protein spikes.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of
latches onto
our cells. Right.
Yeah.
Or our epithelial tissue in our noses and throats and lungs. Well, these protein spikes don't change a whole lot. Yeah. Their basis don't change a whole lot.
Right.
So the vaccine will still be effective against the different strains.
There's be more people infected.
Right. There's going to be more people infected. And I hear a lot of people say, well, they say the vaccine won't stop you from spreading it if you get sick. It won't stop you from getting sick or infected.
Right.
And it won't stop you from spreading it. Yes, this is true in some cases, but the more people that get the vaccine, the more people that we're going to have protected against getting severe COVID.
Right.
Just like any other vaccine, the chickenpox vaccine or whatever.
Right, yeah.
You can still get chickenpox.
Sure.
It's going to be much more mild, hopefully, if you've got sufficient antibody buildup.
Yeah, you won't end up looking like a jackfruit.
Right, exactly. Something like that. Exactly. But it doesn't mean that you're not infectious.
Yeah.
And that's with any vaccine.
Yeah, you can still spread it.
Right. They have varying degrees of being able to shed the virus, the different vaccines. I don't think any of them, I don't know, I have to look it up. So I don't want to say all vaccines have possibility of contagion.
Right.
The majority do. You can still pass it on.
Sure.
But that also depends, because with the vaccine, you should have less of a viral load. Mm-hmm. The viral load is the amount of virus you have in your body.
Right.
And that you shed more of, when you're talking, when you're laughing, sneezing or coughing. Mm-hmm. The possibility of someone getting infected has to do with how much virus they get into their system.
Right. Well, it stands to reason that, if a certain percentage of the population that's vaccinated has a lower viral load, and that same percentage of the population that's vaccinated is less susceptible to receiving the virus, that's going to cut it down considerably. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that after a while how the herd immunity
It is how the herd immunity comes about. Because it's not sufficient. Here in Panama, we've got 2.63% of the population has had COVID.
Yeah, something like that.
Not all of them are protected against getting reinfections. Not all of them have a high enough protection. Against the virus. So they can get sick again. What the vaccine does is basically it makes it so that the infection isn't as bad. It's less likely to become severe, less likely to send you to the ICU or the hospital even.
Yeah, and that will help the patient load, the hospital, the load that is on the hospitals.
Now, the average vaccine, the ones in the past, you need about 70% of the population to get the vaccine for it to be effective.
Right.
This one, since this virus is so contagious, they're talking about 90%.
90%. Yeah, I was reading that a day or two ago. I get an email from the American, the Journal, New England Journal of Medicine.
Right.
I get an email from them once a week, and the one that I got a couple days ago said that because of And that's true even in the States.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that 70%.
No.
Mainly because of how infectious it
Right.
is. So how do you vaccinate 90% of 4.3 million people?
Exactly.
I mean,
where are you going to get all the
yeah.
vaccine to do that?
And you know, logistically, you know, I mean, I guess it's easy to roll into, you know, a town with a kiosk and a van, but
Yeah.
you've got a significant amount of the population that live remotely.
Right.
And a lot of them you can't even access by vehicles. There's communities up here in Jaramillo
Yeah.
where you park at the end of a path, and you
go
gotta
up,
walk,
yeah.
to
Well, there's
get there.
communities here, like in Bocas, where they're way out there. You have to take boats and hike, and
So getting 90% of the Panamanian population inoculated is
they actually have teams that are going to go around.
good.
Yeah,
Good.
They're going to have teams. I read in Alaska. Alaska is obviously a population that's really spread out, and
yeah.
hard to get to, and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. I mean, they're delivering out there, so
Yeah.
I know it's a much smaller population.
Yeah,
but
well, but still though, well, I don't know how many people are in Alaska.
that's true.
Four. I think there's about the same amount of people or close to it in Alaska. But yeah, you know, I think that when people have discussions about this virus and about, you know, the vaccines and the schedules and all that, I don't think a lot of them take into account things like, you know, the logistics behind rolling out a vaccine,
Keeping it cold enough.
keeping it cold
I
enough.
guess in Alaska that's not
That's
a
not a
problem.
problem. You just open the door.
Just dip it in the snow.
And also, like we just talked about, the load on the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, on the whole, actually not just the hospital, but the whole healthcare system here.
And that we still need people to take their precautions. Even when we start vaccinating, it's not going to be immediate effect. We're
Right.
not going to see that immediately. One, because you have to get, for at least the Pfizer and the Moderna, or AstraZeneca,
I think it's AstraZeneca.
that requires the 2 doses.
Yeah, I believe so.
Johnson & Johnson is 1.
Is one, yeah.
And I don't remember.
I don't remember what Moderna is.
But
Offhand.
it's between 21 and 28 days between the first dose and the second dose. The
Yeah.
first dose is only going to give you about 50% protection,
Yeah.
which is probably about higher. It's actually a little bit higher than the flu vaccine.
Then the flu vaccine. Yeah, I read the flu vaccine was somewhere around 30,
34,
35%, something like
30,
that.
40, somewhere
Yeah.
around there. And obviously, we're not seeing as much flu right now because of everybody distancing and wearing their
Yeah,
masks.
and you know that's funny because you know there's been some conversation on the interwebs about how come we're
On
not
the
seeing
dark
the
web.
I know. How come we're not seeing the flu anymore?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, as you say, your broken record speech.
Yes, my broken record.
Wear your mask, wash your hands,
Yeah.
maintain, you know,
Distance,
social
stay in your
distancing.
bubble. Yeah.
So
The bubble is your
yeah.
family under the
So,
same roof
yeah.
within the 4 walls of your
Yes, so that's
house.
not only going to help with the regular flu, but you know, all the coronaviruses, common
other
cold and
colds. Yeah, we're
yeah.
not seeing as much. I this time of year I'd be getting lots of patients with diarrhea
Uh-huh.
and lots of patients with colds and flus and that kind of thing.
Yep.
I do see the occasional one, but
Yeah.
really it's cut way down.
And
Darn
you
it,
ca-
people, I need business. Get sick. No, I'm
Get
kidding.
sick.
I'm kidding. Don't do that. Stay well. We're happy.
Yeah.
We're happy
Yeah,
that
no
people are
doubt.
staying healthy because we need to put all our resources into this virus.
Right. Yeah. You know, and you know, a lot of the people that live in this community, a lot of the expats. You know, and it's funny about the expat community here because a lot of them think it hasn't hit the expats yet.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe that's because you know it's about all the local news here is all in Spanish. It's all you know, generally there's very few stories about expats
Right.
here. But as you very well know, there's a lot of expats here that
Oh, definitely.
that have
They've
been
gotten sick and severely sick.
yeah, and some of them even have even lost their lives from it.
Yeah, but it's not highly publicized, and of course, we don't go out there and say it due to
Well,
confidentiality
no,
and that kind of
you
thing.
can't do that.
Yeah,
But you know,
nobody has to say anything about their medical condition to anyone.
right? No,
That's
they
private.
don't. That's personal and private. And here's
Yeah.
the thing that I've seen on that is I think a lot of the expats here are under a false sense of security.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny when you're doing something that the government says don't do, and then you post it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Look, we're all here at so-and-so restaurant, and there's 15
Yeah.
people. No one's wearing a mask.
No
They're
one's
all
wearing a
holding
mask.
each other. And
No, that's not your bubble.
it's not
That's
your
not
bubble. It's not your bubble. But
no, leave that bubble alone.
Yeah.
That's not your bubble.
But we definitely do need to maintain this. Nobody likes wearing these masks.
Nobody likes not seeing their friends and
or
socializing.
seeing their friends and socializing. But I mentioned this on my show yesterday morning, and we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Panama is at, I think, a 1.6 mortality rate as compared to the world, which is at, I think, 2.1 or 2.4 or something like that.
Yeah,
It's up there.
2
We're about a half a percentage point ahead. And when you look at the percentages, that's a lot of people.
Okay,
So-
yes, but you also have to realize here the reporting isn't as great as other countries is.
That's true.
You
That's true,
people die out in the boonies and they get buried.
Yeah,
They don't get reported as COVID or as any other kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, and you don't have to, in most of the expat passport countries, whether they be the U.S. or Canada or in Europe, when someone in your family dies, that has to be reported.
Yeah.
You can't just open your back door, throw them out in a hole in the ground and bury them.
Right.
But they do that here.
They do that here.
They do that here.
in
you
the
know,
interior,
in the
way out there where
Yeah.
there is no services, there are no funeral services or
Right.
anything like that.
So, I guess, that's very true. There isn't an accurate
Right. A
reporting,
picture of what's going on.
picture
right.
what's going on. So, it might be in some areas a lot worse
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
we
we don't
think.
know out in the mountains or out in the interior, wherever on the islands. We don't know
Well,
necessarily.
yeah, and the comarcas out here, they're autonomous governments.
Yeah.
They don't have any obligation to report
No,
to the
no.
central government, so the central Panamanian government. So we don't know how they
Some of
handle
them
it.
don't even have birth certificates or cellular numbers or anything like that. That's a problem when they come into the clinic
Oh,
for
yeah.
attention, and you can't even prove they exist.
Yeah, yeah. But
So-
it's nice to know that you treat them anyway.
We do,
You
do,
know.
but we also encourage them to go get
To
registered.
go get
with
registered.
Yeah, because legally, that's a problem for us because of the human trafficking.
Yeah. That's also something that's not very, it's not talked about a lot
Right.
here. And I guess I understand that from the point of you don't want to scare people away.
Right.
Under normal circumstances, this country thrives on tourism and foreign investment.
Right.
If you say, hey, by the way,
Exactly.
occasionally we lose people.
Yeah, exactly. It's not good. That's not
but
good.
yeah, but it does.
But most of 90% we find again, so it's okay.
They're usually
Dead
hiding
or alive.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting when I'm reading through social media, and I know that a lot of people mean well. They're not trying to intentionally put misinformation out there. They're
Right.
not looking to start a kerfluffle.
Yeah. Like when I put stuff out there, I say, please be respectful.
Yeah, but
Don't start a war.
there's just as there's armchair quarterbacks. There are armchair doctors.
Yeah.
That might read something, or they might
Dr. Google.
Dr. Google,
Yeah.
or they'll get a YouTube video sent to them, by this, like we talked about earlier, this one doctor out in Kalamazoo,
Yeah.
who's a veterinarian, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we get accurate information. That's why I do the news.
You have to look at the
just to-
majority of the medical information that's coming in, not one or two doctors that are saying, well, you know what?
Right. Yeah.
Every single 100% of my patients survive COVID, even severe
Yeah.
COVID, because I give them this or I give them that.
Yeah. But there has to be a consensus.
Yeah, maybe there was only 5 patients.
Right. And that's not a consensus, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're doing a study, a blind study or a double-blind study, with placebos or whatever, there's a reason why, we've tested 22,000 people. You get to a certain number where that's an accurate representation.
You need a large number of people
Yeah.
in the community
Yeah.
to be able to say this
Right.
works.
But the one person who says, I've treated 6 people with,
Yeah, or even 100 people.
or
That's
even
not
100
many.
people.
That's not many to be able to form a consensus to say, yeah, this works.
This works, yeah.
As we know, 80% of the people have mild COVID symptoms.
Sure, yeah.
Mild things that don't require hospitalization.
Yeah.
And with or without treatment, they were going to get better.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah, they have strong immune systems, or
Right.
maybe their body has a
Right.
natural resistance.
Defense.
Yeah, to particular type of coronavirus. You know, there are
Right.
people who, I don't think people understand that this, you know, what coronaviruses are. You know, they're
Right.
very common. They're
Right,
not,
there's hundreds of different types
yeah.
of coronaviruses, and only, well, no, I shouldn't say only, but like 100 of them can infect humans.
Yeah.
And they're jumping from one species to another
to
pretty
another,
easily.
yeah, and
recently.
you know, there are people who like I never get a cold, get colds.
Yeah.
I never get colds. Once in a blue moon, I have
And now tomorrow you'll get a cold.
I have sinus infections a lot, but you know, as far as a common
I
cold,
can relate.
I can't remember the last time I got a cold.
Especially now with masks.
Yeah, and the last time I got the flu, I mean the you know just
Bone breaking. I'm in bed.
was in 1985. So you know, my immune system is naturally resistant to a lot of different things,
Yeah.
particularly coronaviruses. The ones that give you the common cold,
Right,
or
the
the ones that
common
give you the flu.
Right.
You know, my sister, however, you know,
Gets everything that comes
Yeah,
around.
she lives in Tampa, St. Pete, and you know, someone sneezes in Fort Lauderdale and she gets sick. You know, and that's just her immune system. So I might be one of those people that if I did get COVID, I might just have mild cold symptoms.
You might. There's no telling. I mean, you could
yeah.
be the healthiest person in the world,
And end
work
up-
out, and
Yep.
end up in the hospital.
Look at Yul Gibbons.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think, you know, trying to broad brush, you know, how a vaccine will interact with with any given human.
See, there's a lot of people that say, I had a great immune system. I build it up. I take this. I take that. If I get this, I'm going to be fine. Immunity comes from infection or vaccine first.
Yeah, I don't think you can boost your immune system. Can you boost your immune system?
You can't boost it against COVID if you've never
Yeah,
had COVID.
if you've
because
never had it, yeah.
There is no, you don't have the antibodies formed against
Yeah.
it. If COVID gets into your body, your body says, I don't recognize this. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
And it slowly starts forming antibodies. What the vaccine is doing is it's introducing components of this virus into your body so that your body can start forming these antibodies without actually making you sick.
Yeah.
And the more antibodies you have, they're all going to recognize when you get this virus into your system. They're going to say,
Hey,
alert,
it's you.
Alert, yeah.
You're not coming in today.
Yeah, you're not coming in. And kick you out.
Kick you out, yeah.
So
But it's different for, you know.
it's different for each person, how it's going to affect them. Doesn't mean your immune system is so built up
Yeah.
and it's just stopping this virus.
Right.
The virus is going to get in. It's going to affect something.
Right.
Now, how well you fight it off, that's a different story.
And you know, I don't think there's enough, you know, when I was a kid, I got sick a lot. You know, I mean, I was always sick up till
Right.
I was about, you know, 11 or 12 years old. I mean, if it was going around, I caught it. I
Yeah.
had colds all the time. I had.
And that's how you develop your immunity.
Yeah, and I don't know why, you know, it worked out that way, but for the first 12, maybe 15 years of my life, I was always sick. And then it started to drop off.
Right.
And by the time I hit, you know, 19, 20, 21 years old, I noticed I wasn't getting sick anymore, which
Right.
is why when I got the flu in 85, it kind of sidelined me because I hadn't been sick in years before
Right,
that.
because you're not put into a small room without a whole lot of ventilation with
Right.
other kids that are spreading their germs around.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're talking about when we're talking about avoiding crowds.
Yes.
And because, as you know, if you had kids, you know your kids caught everything that was
Oh
going
gosh,
on.
yeah,
Brought it
everything.
home.
They brought it home, yeah, and they got the other ones sick, and then they all went to the playground and played together, and then they got
and
sick.
then they got sick, which is, you know, that's the way viruses work. If you're in an enclosed space with a huge group of people, such as a school, such as a restaurant, such as a mall, such as a supermarket,
Sure.
the longer you're together, and they say it only takes about 15 minutes of exposure to be able to be infected. 15 minutes, more or less.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a whole lot of time together.
No, it does not. It
So
does
that's
not.
why if you're going to a restaurant and you're going with friends from a whole bunch of other groups, nobody knows that they're sick when they first get infected.
Sure, it's
And
yeah,
it
they're
could take-
asymptomatic.
They could take 3 days, 4 days to show symptoms. So you don't know if the person sitting next to you that's tapping you on the shoulder, making you look at them, you guys laugh, and you're swapping germs. You don't know if they have it.
No, you don't. And You know, I think 3-4 weeks ago, I had to go to David. I particularly like going to David, but I had to go to David. I had to get some supplies that were only in there's this giant dollar store. It's called 123. It's down by the hospital somewhere, I think, one of the hospitals. And I'd never been in there before. It's like a Walmart, but with like 1.5 foot wide aisles. And I had been looking for a couple of particular things, and I haven't been able to find them in a long, long time. And then someone had texted me, "Hey, I'm down at the store here." Took a picture of it. I said, "Okay, I guess we got to go there." Well, I went there with Day, and I walked in. There was a line outside. Okay, you know, we're 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
You know, they're corralling everyone in. But once we got in that store, it was a madhouse.
Shoulder to shoulder.
It was, and I'm in there, and I went straight for what I needed to get, and I grabbed it, and I got out of there.
Yeah.
Because I started feeling, I'm not a claustrophobic person, you know, but being in that crowd.
And thinking about who's got the virus, who doesn't have the virus.
Yeah, you know, I was like, I just need to get out of here.
Mask over your nose. You know?
I know, right? I didn't feel particularly safe in there.
Yeah.
You know, even though I had my mask on, and
they may or may not have their mask correctly placed.
Placed, or it might not be as effective. I saw people in there walking around in there with what do you call it? Not handkerchiefs. What do you call bandanas?
Bandanas
around their head, T-shirts up over their nose, and you know whatnot. Haven't seen the jock strap yet, though.
No, and you know that would probably
work better.
Yeah.
But you know, I felt that. I felt that it was just too many. It's too much.
Too much, yeah.
It's too much.
I've walked in and walked right out of a store that looks like that.
Yeah.
Right away, because you can't avoid bumping in.
No, the people that were shoulder to shoulder, they were bumping into you. They'd stop short in front of you, and then you know, you try to stop, and then the person behind you, bangs into you, and now you're in a sandwich, and not in the good way, right? So. I had to get, and then I get back to the car, and I had to park like 5 blocks away because it's David.
And you're like,
and I'm in the car, I'm doing blah blah blah, and I see this truck, utility truck pulls up behind me. I'm in a parking space in front of the building,
and just stops there.
And the guy gets out with tools and goes into a construction site. I'm like, and I'm beeping the horn, you know. He's like 20 minutos. I'm like, 20 minutes? I'm not going to sit here and wait for you for 20 minutes.
Why doesn't he just take your parking spot when you leave it?
That's what I said. I'm leaving. In my horrible Spanish, and finally, you know, he sent his boss back. But I sat there 10 minutes. That's totally irrelevant. But while I was
just frustration.
Yeah, while I was sitting in that parking space, it was one of those where you pull in, and it was a bank, shopping center type of thing. There was a line for the bank.
Right.
And the bank was around the corner. The bank was around the corner, and the line went around all the way to the end. And it looked like it wrapped around the building. And it was like they were waiting online for a movie theater 5 years ago. There was no space. Nobody was social distancing. Half the people, you know, they all had their masks on, but some of them had it below the nose.
Yeah,
and
that's the problem.
Some had it hanging off their ear while they were on the phone. But they were all up against one another, like a regular line. And as I'm driving through David, trying to get out of David, I was starting to pay attention to the lines that were formed. And it seemed like they were all like that. Now, the only exceptions that I saw was when I was at Gringo Corners. There's I think it's a Super Baru on the corner there. They had everybody properly spaced out properly. But all the little stores.
Well, this past week, because of being payday, because of the Vale Digital and all that, it was a lot worse.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everybody, there are certain groups of people that do have to do or daily or weekly shopping. They can't stock up for a month like your average expat can stock up for a month.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have to either buy daily.
Sure.
From what they earn that day, or weekly if they get paid weekly. So it's really hard to say, okay, we're not allowing, you know, we're only allowing 50% into the stores.
Right.
The rest of you have to wait out there. It's really difficult to maintain that spacing in a city. Or
Well, sure.
really anywhere.
Well, yeah, and especially like, and you know, it's not even sometimes a matter of do you have the money to stock up? You know, if we don't have the space,
Right.
you know,
The space too.
you know,
yeah.
I mean, we have, I guess, you know, we have plenty of room in our house. We've got a pretty decent sized house, but
But you don't have.
we have a
5
regular,
refrigerators.
we have a regular refrigerator and a
Right.
freezer, so you know we can only keep so much food in there. And I
Exactly.
know there are some people that have, you know,
The chest freezers.
the chest
and
freezers
that.
and all that, but you
Yeah.
know we don't have one of those.
Yeah.
And I had thought about, you know, about getting one, but we just got into the habit of every few days we go to the store and we buy enough dinner meat for the next few days and some produce and whatnot. And
Well, being a fishing family, we had to get a chest freezer.
well, yeah.
Because you can pull in a lot of fish at sometimes. and
Sure,
obviously,
sure.
you're not going to throw it back.
And you know, no, you could also, that's a good place to store the bodies.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, they do sell that huge one at Price Mart.
I know, I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can shop for 6 months with that. We had one back in the States
Yeah.
a long time ago.
They're convenient.
In fact, I think it was my first wife and I. We had one because we were on one of those meat plans. You know, they come by once a month and they deliver a month's worth of meat, and we'd stock up
And
and,
here's your
all
cow.
that. Here's your cow, yeah, and yeah, we had the meat people, and we had a Schwann's account, and they combine, they deliver like ice cream and raw
Nice.
cookie dough, and that's probably why I have diabetes. That one subscription, probably.
You're making me hungry. Stop that.
Pop-Tarts, cheese doodles, Doritos.
Oh.
I can fix that, McRib.
Oh, yeah, okay. We're done.
But yeah, no.
See how I
but,
gotta go on. No.
But yeah, no, for whatever reason, you know, a lot of people here have grown accustomed to shopping every few days.
Yeah.
And you, when you have a payday, everything you all out there have seen the lines at the banks.
Oh, yeah.
On-
and
on
that was
paydays.
before COVID,
That was
too.
that was before COVID.
But, and before COVID, too, you saw the stores. You go into a store and you couldn't move around on payday.
Oh, I know.
And really, you cannot allow that many people inside. It's a little bit less dangerous to be outdoors
Little
and
bit,
not
yeah.
spaced apart than indoors
Yeah.
and on top of one another.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, you know, you would hope that the virus would get dispersed and just blow away outside.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
mean, that's what your imagination says anyway.
Well, you know, I mean, and that's, I don't think that's totally inaccurate. You know, I mean, what I think is the things that I think about, you know, that when my paranoia takes over and I'm in the store and I'm surrounded by people, I'm like, okay, well, how many times has that can of soup been picked up and put down?
Exactly. How many people have lowered their mask to cough or sneeze
Yeah.
over here in this
you know,
corner, and it's stuck to the
And
produce?
we had gotten into the habit months and months ago. Unfortunately, we just broke away from. But when this whole thing started, we were wiping down our. You know, we go to the store. I come back from the store, and you know, like when you walk into my front door, right across the hall is my laundry room. You know, and then around the corner is the shower. And we were getting in, and I was handing Dave the groceries, and I just stripped down, put all my stuff in the washing machine, went into the shower. You know, didn't touch anything, and just wiping down the groceries. And now it's like, you know, I come in the store, I put the bag down, and I go to work. You know, I wash my hands because I always wash my hands. But you know, we've gotten out of that habit of washing all of our groceries and
I'm not
showering.
so sure that that's a great idea to stop being meticulous. When you let down your guard is when you tend to, you know, make mistakes.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to wipe down all your groceries. I'm not saying you necessarily have to jump in the shower as soon as you get home.
Yeah.
It's recommended if you're in an environment where you're in a closed space for a long time that you can get the virus on you.
Yeah.
You can breathe it in despite having a mask.
Yeah. It's just less.
It's just
less
a lot less. And probably you'll be okay, but you can't guarantee it either.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, you know, we got into the habit, you know, and it lasted for, you know, maybe a month and a half. And you know, we then came the lockdown where, you know, you only had 2 hours and whatnot, and I just got out of the habit of doing that. I mean, I would come in, I would wash my hands, But I got out of the habit of showering and wiping down everything, and I think a lot of people have. You know,
they do. It's just getting tired of it.
you're just getting tired of it. Yeah, it's a pandemic. You have? What is that called when you're driving down the highway and highway hypnosis? They give you getting pandemic hypnosis.
Also,
They're getting COVID hypnosis.
Yeah.
You know, and I should. You know, we all should be taking probably more precautions than we are. You know, but
probably.
we get caught up in I just don't want to do this. I'm so tired of this.
It's tiring. It's annoying. Like I said, if we want to get back to a more normal life,
right,
we have to put up with it just a little bit longer. And
yeah, we do.
You know, for most people, yes, I do recommend you getting the vaccine. Yes, they haven't been tested as long as other vaccines, but this is an emergency type situation. And it's a worldwide emergency type situation.
Sure, yeah.
It's putting an enormous strain on the economy, on hospitals, on healthcare workers. I think we've lost about 50 healthcare workers.
Yeah, something like that. I posted a story on that. It was a significant number, also with
for
teachers
our little country,
too.
Yeah, for our little country, and the impact that it's having on businesses because of having to quarantine their workers for 2 weeks or having to close down the business for a couple of days to
clean and sanitize.
If one of the workers comes up positive.
Also, word gets out that someone in that grocery store, that shoe store, that clothing store had COVID. Well, people aren't going to go there.
All of a sudden, people are going to say, "No, not going there."
Blacklist them.
Yep, blacklisted. Yeah. So really, it's had. I mean, we're not even talking about the economic impact that the lockdowns have had.
Yeah.
You know, wrong or right, lockdowns do help stop the spread.
Well, yeah, I mean, just based on what they are.
Right.
You know, the fewer people you have out in circulation, obviously, the fewer are. And, you know, I think a lot of people, when they were arguing about the efficacy of a lockdown, were either under the impression that it was supposed to stop the virus, which it was never intended to stop the virus. It was intended just to slow down the spread, or that one of them is good and one of them is bad.
Right.
And, you know, lockdowns obviously are not very popular.
No. Nobody wants to be told that they have to remain in their house.
But, you know, I never looked at it as an either or. You know, either we get locked down or we destroy the economy.
Yeah.
And
no, both are going to happen either way.
Yeah, it's not like the economy is destroyed because of the lockdown, and it's not like the lockdown is in place to destroy the economy. The economy is going to, like you said, is going to be affected one way or the other.
And I've heard so many times, we're shutting down the country for a 1% death rate.
It was 400,000 people. It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. It's not a little thing.
And I think it's more than 1%.
It's more than 1%, but everybody says 1%. They say 99% of people live. Well, that's kind of hard if the death rate is like 2.4 or 2.5 worldwide.
Yeah.
That kind of, you know, math class told me that doesn't work.
We're at 1.6% here, and there's 4.3 million people.
Right.
So that's what, 500 something, almost half a million people. It's a half a million.
It's a lot of people.
It's a half a million people.
And then they say, well, you know, but the death rate over this year has not been that much different from previous years. The amount of deaths in a year.
All right.
That's not particularly true. There have been more deaths, but the problem is these deaths are occurring in such a short period of time. You know, a huge death rate in the first few months of getting the virus here.
Well, if you have a lockdown, right? If you're on lockdown, you can't go anywhere, and in that lockdown, you've had 2,000 people die of COVID-19, right? But you didn't have 2,000 people die in traffic accidents because nobody was out.
Right.
The numbers,
it's going to stay the same.
It's going to stay the same.
The percentage is going to stay the same.
But the distribution of what those causes of death are going to be very different. So that's why you just can't look at a number like that and say, well, you know, 200,000 people died, 50,000 people died this year, 50,000 people died last year. Well, this year, you know, we didn't have people dying in car accidents. We didn't have people dying of some of the things, you know, that happen.
Statistics is very black and white.
It is.
It doesn't analyze. I mean, it does analyze, but it analyzes, numbers.
It's
crunches
math.
Numbers. It's math.
Yeah.
It doesn't analyze the situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't take into account lives, human lives, basically. They're breaking it down into a mathematical equation. Yeah, it can be deceiving.
Yeah, I mean, when
Either
the
way,
national
it can be deceiving.
when the national parks are closed, you're not going to have people dying of accidents that they would die of in a national park. If the
Right.
beaches are closed, you're going to have less drownings. You
Right.
know, if the waterfalls are closed, you're going to have less people in diving accidents. If hiking trails are closed, you're going to have less people dying of falling off the edge of a cliff.
Right.
But you're going to have more people dying of a pandemic. So on the outside of it, yeah, you might have the same amount of people dying, but you're going to have more people dying of the pandemic du jour as you would from people who aren't out doing things that
That get them killed.
well, that they have their own statistic.
Yeah.
You have a 30% chance of dying, if you're speeding, or if you're cliff diving, or if you're whatever.
It's like looking at only the statistics for flu during the 2019, 2020, or the 2020, 2021 flu season. There are other factors involved: mask wearing, distancing, lockdowns. You're not going to have as many infections. You're not going to have as many colds, and that's what we're trying to say. It's out there. It's affecting lives. It's affecting the economy, whether we're shut down or not. Businesses are being affected.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I know a lot of the businesses here, the people that I know, the business men and women here and families that I know are really doing what they're supposed to be doing. They all have the temperature stations,
Right.
the alcohol. You have the tape on the floor. They're doing what they can to try to keep people apart. That 2 meters apart. And a lot of them aren't coming back. A lot of those businesses that went away aren't coming back.
They're not going to come back.
And it's not just
Unfortunately.
the small local Panamanian restaurants. You got major like Colibri. Colibri's gone.
Hotels are gone.
The hotels are gone. BQ,
Felix de Maduro is bankrupt.
the Boquete, the BQT Sports Grill. They opened up right next door to me. 2 months later, they had to shut down.
Right.
And now, I talked to Eric, who owns that place. He's a sweet guy. He's an awesome human being. He installed an exhaust system, spent extra money just so the smoke would flow away from my house. He's a really nice guy, and I felt horrible for him because 2 months after opening, shut down, and he's out of business.
Well, there was no sports going on, and two.
Well, yeah, but the businesses that are here,
it's tough. It's tough on especially the small businesses, but the big business too is being affected.
And this community has an inordinate amount of expats that have income that isn't affected by the Panamanian economy.
Right.
So a lot of the small businesses here are benefiting that. We can pick up the phone 2-3 times a week and order from Big Daddy's or Isabella's or any of them, and say, come get me. And we're doing what we can. But
it's not enough. We don't have the tourism that we used to.
Yeah, but Boquete, in that sense, is a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
There's more money here. There's more foreign money here than there is.
The concentration of expats with expendable income, is that what they call it? Expendable income is high.
But you go, 50, 60 kilometers in any given direction here. Now you're in small pueblos where it's all locals. There really are no expats there, and all of those local businesses. They're gone. They're not going to come back. It's
unfortunate. And as you know, there is a high turnover rate or a high closure rate of small businesses anyway.
Yes, as a general rule. Yeah.
As a general rule, I mean, they're not going to survive in the best of circumstances. Some of these places.
Yeah.
As I said, location.
Yeah. And this community, is generous. It's a very generous community, and I know that we read on our local groups. A lot of people are saying, hey, don't forget, we need to support our local businesses. And a lot of us will pick up. Well, I guess you do pick up your phone. I'm thinking of the pick up your phone. We still pick it up. We get on our phone and
open your phone,
and we'll order out. We'll order in. We'll go to the restaurants here,
pick up or whatever,
and what have you. We're fortunate that way in this town because of the amount of expats here that have disposable income. But most of the country's not like that.
Right.
And sometimes, when you read these stories of, 400 people were detained because of breaking, curfew, especially during a lockdown, when you get a chance to talk to some of these people, they're looking for food.
Yeah.
They have no food. They're looking for food. And, if you have an opportunity and you're like, well, I could either stay in my house and my family can be malnourished, or I can go out and find a chicken somewhere, or whatever.
Right.
They're going to go out, and I can't 100% blame them for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I would, if I had a choice to make, do I feed my family or do I obey the law? I'm probably going to break the law.
Yeah, these people aren't doing it to go out and party.
No, they're
not doing it to go get some alcohol from somewhere. The majority aren't.
No,
and they need to eat.
And a lot of these places out here, a lot of these barrios and shanty towns, there's no running water, so they have to go out and get fresh water. And it doesn't help, obviously, when you're out during a lockdown, but if you
they're also not getting in big groups,
right?
One person might go out and get
these aren't the people. These aren't the people you see on TV and Noticias,
not
where there's 50 of them at the beach. They're trying to find, and I understand that. I honestly do understand that, but Sucre, the health minister, has multiple times come on the national TV and said, look, there's a problem here with this culture and not obeying these curfews and these bubbles. And this isn't a case of some gringo out there saying, oh, these people. Yeah. This is coming from Panamanian's own health minister, who's very aware of the culture of the situation. And the biggest problem that he has said consistently is people, going and having these big clandestine parties, the super spreader events.
Not necessary to have parties at the moment.
No,
not necessary.
It's really not.
Necessities are food, water, and a roof over your head. Clothing.
Right. Yeah.
And some people do not have the ability to buy food for a week or a month.
Right.
They don't have refrigeration.
No, they don't.
They don't have gas a lot of times. They have to go get a tank of gas. They have
or
to
the
walk
money.
miles.
They we in the States and in Canada and Europe, there's that saying, you live paycheck to paycheck, and whether the paycheck's a week or every 2 weeks or every month, I think a lot of people don't understand that. Many people in this country, there's more time between their check and the next one, than they have money for, and they can't go out. They can't go out and shop for a week.
Yeah,
they can shop for a day or two, and this is the way that they have been living for a very long time, for generations.
And they can't change it, and. The government has been trying to help out, delivering bags of food, but the bags of food are, incomplete.
Well, yeah, and the government, we can do a whole show about where the money goes in this government. But, by and large, though, there are places that I have personally been to where they haven't seen a bag of food.
Right.
I mean, months went by.
And the majority are like a 10-person family living under one roof, and they get one bag of food, and it has... a 5-pound bag of rice, a can of Spam.
Yeah, it's gone in a week.
Maybe a bag of beans, a thing of milk.
Sardines,
that's not gonna, that's not gonna feed an entire family.
No, and the effort I'm sure is appreciated.
Yeah, oh yeah. Any little bit helps.
The government doesn't have the resources.
Or the organization to be able to deliver on that wide
scale.
Well,
and you can't make a righteous comparison to... And I'll use the United States because that's my passport, one of my passport countries. Panama doesn't print money. Mm-hmm. There's no central bank here. The United States. The United States needs money for something. They digitally they'll print more money. They'll add more money to their to the budget.
Right.
And they'll worry about paying for it later, and they can pay for it with many different, with bonds, taxes, or whatever. But Panama does not print money. So if they have $2 billion, they have $2 billion.
Yeah.
And if they want more money, they have to sell bonds.
Yeah.
And those bonds still have to be paid back. And the way the government works here, you can't get into too much of a deficit. You end up losing. You end up losing land. You end up losing rights. You end up losing your privileges, shipping privileges. So they're trying to achieve a balance here. Yeah. And the government here is not a representative republic. It's a presidential republic, and they do things a little bit different. So when they allocate X amount of dollars for food for the indigent, they have to take that money and divide it up. And they can't say, okay, well, we have enough to give each person a week's worth of food every month. They can't just print money to make up those other 3 bags. And everyone gets mad at the government because they don't understand how the government here works. Now, you're a citizen. You have a good understanding how the government here works. A lot of people don't. Well, why don't they just get more food? Well,
with
what?
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You can't just pull it out of your hat.
No, you can't, and or other orifices.
Yeah.
And you
I'm trying to be.
It's a family show.
It's a family show. No, I don't know if it is or not. But
I don't know.
We're trying to keep.
But we don't print money here. And when there's money put in the budget, it comes from taxes. And then when you have lockdown, you have less revenue.
You can't just print money anyways. You have to have something to back it up to give it a
value.
value.
You should have something to back it up.
You should. You're supposed to have some kind of thing behind it that says this money actually is worth something. Yeah. It's not just a piece of paper with a number on it. And
because of the way the government is in the States, you can have bonds, to back that up. You can have a number of different things. It's not that way here. This is still a developing nation. And I think the government is doing considering what they have to work with, I think they're doing a very, very good job.
They're doing what they can. They're trying. Obviously you have the innate corruption in the country.
Yeah, you're going to have that, sure.
You have the problems of distribution. You have the problems with, organization, logistics. Mm-hmm. And that comes with being in a third world country.
Right.
It's not by any means, even though we got the big buildings in the cities, it looks very modern. It's by no means a first world country.
It's still developing, exactly.
So I want to just touch on what the show is originally about, and once again, the vaccines.
Oh, yes.
Because we're running out of time.
Yes, we are.
Of all the different vaccines and their safety profiles, we see about 0.2, 0.3% have reactions. Allergic, what have you. Really, it's nothing that's going to stop you from going to work. Maybe you get a fever for a day, maybe you get a sore arm, maybe you get an allergic reaction that they reverse right there. By and large, this vaccine is safer than getting COVID.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The possible long-term effects are not going to be anything compared to the long-term effects of getting COVID.
Yeah.
We're seeing problems with the heart.
Mm-hmm. Lungs.
Permanent lung damage that some people are never going to get over.
Right.
They're going to have to continue receiving some kind of treatment, putting another strain on the system. Mm-hmm. We're seeing kidney damage. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the death.
Yeah, and Kawasaki disease popped up in kids.
Or Kawasaki-like disease in kids.
Like diseases in kids,
which is basically a big inflammation in the body.
Sure,
We're seeing blood clots.
Yeah.
And you can have these weeks to months after you get over COVID.
Right, which is far worse than what you're going to get from the vaccine.
And they say, which is far worse. So, it's not going to change your DNA.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have the possibility.
You're not going to become an alien lizard person or anything.
Exactly.
And another thing that I know you wanted to cover on the show, and we got just a minute left, I know, because
we got
Pizza Brasiliissimo is here. There's no quarantine this weekend.
No quarantine.
We are open from 4 a.m. until 9 p.m. The beaches and the public areas are open from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yeah, so that's.
But there's still restricted travel between certain provinces.
Right. Yeah, that's mainly out west though, isn't it? Out east, isn't it? And in Panama.
Panama City, Panama West. I guess there's still the one probably at Divisa.
I think so.
Divisa?
I think it's Divisa.
But if you have a real reason to be able to do it. A doctor's appointment, a
Sure.
airline ticket, whatever.
You can get
You can go there.
Yeah. But for us in Cherokee, we're open.
We're open.
We're open.
Basically, you
Yeah.
just can't go out past 9. This has been Talking with Your Doctor. I'm Dr. Shannon Tuer. Al Stefanelli, my guest from Boquete Now. His show is at 10 a.m. on Fridays.
Yes.
Coming up on Monday, we have Barbara and Cynthia.
That's right, on the air.
On the air with Barbara and Cynthia at 10 a.m. At noon, we have a repeat of
Strange Brew
by Mike Weber.
Yeah.
And he is also on Fridays, but at noon.
At noon, yeah.
Thank you all for joining the show today. Thank you, Al.
My pleasure.
Very interesting show, I think. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
And we will see you next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another show of Talking with Your Doctor.
Paso buen día.
Have a great day.